This is your outline.
Yes.
So
My
whenever you're ready, you can just.
My name is Sophia, and I got the topic teen problems, and today I'm going to talk about being different. I chose this topic because I thought it was different and interesting, and I don't feel like it's talking much about, which I found very interesting because I feel like it's a very important subject to talk about. If we start out what being different really is, it's very hard to define. It's a very wide term. But an example could be, especially when children are small, boys are required to wear blue and girls wear pink. And that's just how it is, and that's how it's always been. And if a boy suddenly wanted to wear pink and a girl suddenly wanted to wear blue, they would go against the norms of the society and the thing that's normal here, and that would be being different, and it could lead to bullying. And I don't really think parents would do that to their children because it's considered as weird or different, and then you might just get like isolated from everyone else because you are different. And this topic with genders is it's very much related to being different because there's a lot of standards and there's a lot of like boxes of how you should be if you're a woman and how you should be if you're a man. For example, I think a lot of people would think it was weird if a woman shaved her head bald or a boy wore like a pink dress. But if you really think about it, it's just like fabric a boy's wear if he's wearing a pink dress, and why is it so wrong if we really start thinking about it? And also, shaving your head, it's like shaving your armpits. If you don't want hair, you shave it off, just like if you were a boy. But it doesn't work like that, and it's very weird to think about if you think about how we started out as humans. Also, this was where about being different at looks. You can also be different like piercings and tattoos, but that is not really different anymore. But if we go 50 years back, that was a very different thing, very new. But now it's getting more normal, and I think that's a very positive change. And I think a lot of other things could go that way too. And maybe we could just be who we are. But that's always going to be difficult because there's all these norms in the society of what normal is. But when you ask a person what normal really is, no one can answer because it's very hard to define that too. But I think we all have an idea what you should do and should not do in every country and society and culture. And then a big part of this is, of course, social media. It's a big part of every teen's every day. And I think a lot of social media people and a lot of famous people, they think it's good that people stand out and be different because they are too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so famous. But it's more easier said than done because it's not really accepted for everyone to just stand out from the crowd because we have this, like, for example, in Denmark, we have this jantelov, and you shouldn't think you're that much or so good, and that's actually in a lot of people's back head, even though they won't admit it. Like a lot of people can talk bad and whisper and bully like people in a lower social rank if they think they are something or they're different or something like that. And it's good to be different and be yourself and express who you are. And I think it's good that social media really like encourage you to do it, but it's sad that it can be so hard for so many because it shouldn't be like that. And also this bullying, of course, it's very about maybe if another person won't dare to stand out and be different, it's easy to bully other people who are, which is sad because again, what is the problem with being who you are? Because normal, that's being different in another country, and we're just humans. So I think that people should have a lot of self-love, a lot of confidence in their self, and just do what they want. And a lot of other people should have that too, to help ourselves get better and be better, just like homosexuality. That was, if we go 50 years back, 100, that was being very different, and then it was not accepted at all. But every like century, like every 10 years, it's getting more and more accepted, and now if you're bisexual or homosexual, it's almost not a problem, at least not in our country up here in Scandinavia. Of course, in Russia, and there's still a lot of problems with it, but it's like a positive change. And I think a lot of other things could be that too, because it's just how it is. We're just humans.
That's okay, Sophia. Perfect. Now you can just pick a question from the boxes, and if you just tell me which number you'll take.
2 in this.
Yes. Can I see it? It's actually number 5.
Oh,
yeah. So number 5. There we go. And it's teen problems.
Oh, I can't have that, can I?
Oh, sorry, no. Oh, sorry. Just a sec. Oh, it is in here. Then it must be this. Sorry, it's not. I got it wrong. Another way of living.
Yeah.
Sorry. You? Could you hand me your outline, please?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Should I read the question out loud?
Yes.
How is Aboriginal culture different from our culture?
Yes.
I think the Aboriginal culture is a lot about like appreciating nature and living in nature, and us up here, we're not really about that. And of course the gods and the whole lifestyle really. And you know, I think we have a lot of different cultures all the time, all around us. They just stick to their culture, and they have a lot of traditions which we don't really have it in the same way. And of course they live very different. They live out in nature, and they don't have cars. A lot of dot painting, body painting. And
if we take about, back in the real old times where they lived, the Aboriginals, can you tell me a bit more about how they lived?
They have these teepees, which is tents, and then they move around, and they live in Australia, just living around in nature, and they do these dot painting in caves where they stay if they stay in there. And
what did they use these storytelling for?
Yeah, they made stories out of this, maybe about how everything got done. There's a story about a snake which created all the lands and mountains, and there's a lot of other stories too. They also made a story about like a scary man, so the children wouldn't go out at night alone because they could be eaten by wolves. And they do a lot of music, a lot of dancing, and it's also like this classic humanism thing that the men go out hunting all day, and then the women stay home and do vegetables and get water and make clothes from, like, if they've captured a animal, you can make clothes out of it. They did that at home.
Their relation with nature, what is that like?
All their gods are created from nature, and they respect nature, and they pray for nature, and they really believe that they should respect each other, that the earth are not theirs, they're just loaning it for a bit.
How is that different from our culture?
I don't really think we respect nature that much. We haven't done in history. It's getting better a lot. There's a lot of good organizations, but if we look out, this is not how the planet are created. So I think we live more as like humans and for ourselves and each other, instead of living a little bit more for nature and the planet.
Yes, and kind of like we own it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. How about when the settlers came from England? What did they do to the Aboriginals? Do you remember that?
Yes. Us humans historically were very afraid of things we don't know. and they didn't know the Aboriginals, and they were very wondering how they could live without education, and they didn't understood it, and I don't think they liked it, because they also have another skin color. So they took some of the children from their family called half-caste children, and that is a half Aboriginal and half white, because of some made love with some Aboriginals, and then they took him to schools that they made in Australia, because Australia were their country now. So they made these schools and took the children from their parents so they could go in school there and be gentlemen and stuff. And maybe,
Do you also remember the fact that they wanted the Aboriginals, half-caste children, to maintain being half-caste? I mean, half black, half white, or did they wanted to do anything about that? Do you remember that?
Yeah, they didn't want it they wanted an all white culture, and they didn't respect the Aboriginals at all. That's why they also took prisoners and things to Australia in the first place. So of course they didn't want to maintain their culture. I think that's why they also like made babies with them too.
To get them white.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How do they live today?
The Aboriginals have really a hard life. My dad went to Australia, and he met a lot of Aboriginals, and they're not respected by the Australian culture, even though people like to say they are, even though they have gotten a official apology. That doesn't really matter that much, because they have a really hard life with drugs and alcohol, because there's just like centuries where children are taken from them and they're not respected, they're getting killed, and so they really have a hard life. I think some of them are getting back on track, but it's still not a good life.
Can you compare it to anything here in our culture? For example, Denmark. Did we do the same thing with another people that you know? Here in the north, did we do anything to people that can be compared to this?
I think we have to go way back, maybe for like burning witches.
Yeah, we did. But how about Greenland? Do you remember that?
Yeah, so Greenland is like a part of Denmark now, but it wasn't from the beginning. And of course, when we're white, we don't like Eskimos. No. So I don't really know much about it.
That's okay. But we actually did something similar. Also took their children away to make them Christian, and how about the rainbow serpent story you told about the snake? Can you compare it to a story that we have here in our culture, where he made the creation of Earth?
Yeah, we have like the 7 days of God when he created the Earth, when he first made the stars and the moon, and then the Earth was made, and then man. Yes. And there's a lot of similarities, but I think ours is more about mankind than nature.
Yeah, exactly. Completely. All right. Do you think that they're proud of their culture?
Aboriginals?
Yes.
I really think they are, because if they weren't, they would just give up. And it's the eldest culture there is. It's been there for 50,000 years, so I don't really feel like they will give up ever, because if they weren't proud of their culture, they wouldn't be there still today. So I think they are, really, because also in the rabbit-proof fence, they went back to their original family, and they could just have stayed and lived the English culture, but they wouldn't.
No. That's a really amazing story, you think?
Yeah.
Where they went back, actually, one of the girls several times, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think she did that?
I think because she wanted to go home, because nothing will ever really be home, and it's such different cultures, and when you're just taken away from your family, it's not right. And I feel like, of course, there would be some of like standouts, but I think almost every half-caste children want to go back to their family, because I feel like it's more grounded in peace than the other, and all these new things and getting away from the family, just too much. It's too much for a child to handle.
Yes, it is. Of course it is. Do you have any more questions now? Thank you, Sophia. You can just step out.
Yeah.
And we'll come and get you in a while. Godt, Sophia. Det synes vi, du klarede rigtig godt. Så du får tal. Og det vi kan sige, det er, at med alt dit emne, synspunkter, din struktur og det hele, det var rigtig flot, og vi kunne rigtig godt lide også din outline. Vi kunne godt lide, at den måde, du kommer i dybden med nogle ting, som med noget, du ser omkring samfundet og så videre, som er sådan lidt over det, man måske ser på din alder. Det var rigtig, rigtig flot klaret. Rigtig fin kendskab til kultur og alle de samfundsforhold, vi har talt om, og omkring hele Australien. Emnet har du totalt styr på. Og perspektiverer hele tiden fra det ene til det andet, og kan tale med på det hele. Så er der dit sprog. Vildt flot accent og rigtig flot sprog, du har. Du har et par grammatiske fejl. Og som vi lige sad og talte om, så er det her med, at dit fokus på at have så godt styr på alt det andet, så er der lige nogle grammatiske fejl, som du måske lige kan holde fokus på, få rettet lidt med sådan lidt kongruensfejl med, eller flertal, hvor der måske kommer et S på, selvom at det er children for eksempel. Ikke? Men super, super flot. Godt klaret. Så
Tak.
tillykke med det. Ja, det kan jeg godt forstå.